Hey, welcome back to my channel. Let's get into Friday the 13th Part 2. Now that we're done through the first one, let's get this series done. Part 2 was directed by Steve Miner, who was a protege of Sean Cunningham. Now, Sean Cunningham and Tom Savini, Sean Cunningham was involved with the production only ceremoniously. He did a little bit of second unit shooting. But other than that, he really didn't see much past the first one. The first one, Sean Cunningham's movie. Jason was considered a figment of her imagination. Even Tom Savini said so, even though he did come back for part 4. So they wanted Tom Savini back to do the effects, but he was busy doing a movie with Joseph Zito called The Prowler, which is a pretty cool little slasher film. And then funny enough, he came back for the final chapter, which Joseph Zito directed, and he did the effects on that one. But even Tom Savini said, there is no Jason. What the hell are you talking about? It was a figment of her imagination. It was just something, he's not real. He's not alive, but people said, nope, there's a Jason, and this is where we get our Baghead version of Jason. Now, this movie was made for like $1.25 million. And so it was a way bigger budget than what they had in the original. And we have Amy Steele as our main final girl, Jenny. And she's really good in this movie. You'll remember Amy Steele was also in a cool little slasher film called April Fool's Day from the 80s. Not the remake, I'm talking about the one in the 80s. Which, funny enough, also Thomas Wilson from Back to the Future fame's in that movie, too. Yes, Biff is in April Fool's Day, if you watch that movie. But she is definitely, I think she's an upgrade from Adriana King in the first movie, no disrespect, but I just think she's really good. And this supposedly takes place, I think, 5 or 6 years after the original. I think they say it during the movie, too. I just watched it, but when the head camp counselor is talking about Jason and all this stuff that happened, I think he says it was like 5 or 6 years ago. So Jason's been living in the woods for 5 years because, as we find out later, he lives in this little like hobo shack out in the woods by himself, and he's been feeding off of animals and whatnot for however long he's been alive. But he did see his mommy get her head cut off, so he's a little pissed about that. Crazy Ralph is back too, although Crazy Ralph in this movie meets his demise. Yes, we kill poor Crazy Ralph in this movie. But, this movie, basically, it's just these bunch of camp counselors go to they're back at Crystal Lake. They have to get killed, so why people keep going back there after this slaughter happened, I don't know, but people are back. And this time, they relocated the lake they used to Connecticut. They didn't refilm it. They didn't film this one in Jersey like the first one. They actually did it at a camp in Connecticut. And basically, it's the same formula. I mean, Amy Steele's really good. Some of the actors are pretty good. But they all fit in that box. Like, you got the stoner, the jock, blah, 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 all the way down the line. The hot, sexy girl that just wants to get all the boxes are checked for this one, as you have to with a Friday the 13th movie. And, as the movie goes along, Jason stalks and slashes people. Now, this one did get cut down by me. But after the first one, this one really got... the MPAA had its eye set on the Friday the 13th franchise. So there are some scenes that are pretty bloody, but they're even bloodier in the original cut, but they had to cut down. And there's some good kills in there. There's a kid in the wheelchair that gets the meat cleaver into the head, and the wheelchair goes down the steps. That's a good one. And the double killing with the stake right through the couple that are having sex. That's a good one, too. And there's, Jason's effective. I mean, he has the bag on his head. It's kind of like a ripoff of The Town That Dread Sundown, if you ever seen that movie from the 70s, based on a true story. It looks just like, I don't mind it for this one. I'm just glad he didn't stick with it. This is like what people affectionately call Hillbilly Jason in this movie. And at the end, we have, Jason has a little shrine in his shack with his mother's head in her sweater. Amy Steele's character ends up in the shack, puts on the sweater, pretends to be mom, confusing Jason. And then they think they kill him, and then at the end, he comes back and grabs her at the end. And, and then we were off to the third one. Now, funny enough, Adriana King did come back in the beginning of this movie. She didn't know she was going to die. She thought she had an agreement with the producers I'd come back, and maybe she didn't want to be on set that much because she was having problems with a stalker. So she said, I'll come in for a few days, and then, if you want to bring me back for part 3 or whatever down the line, you can bring me back. But she said she didn't know she was dying in the movie till she was being driven to set. And when she was driving the set, she found out that they were killing her. Well, that's a nice time to find out, but that's what happened. And that happens right in the beginning of the movie. Jason stalks her to her apartment, which really, it's funny. Jason leaves Crystal Lake to kill her. How do you find her? Do you look her up in the phone book? I mean, I'm thinking about it too much, but really, how did Jason track her down, Alice, from the first one? I don't know, but he did. Jason's a goddamn detective, and he found her and he killed her. But yeah, this one's all right. I don't mind it. It's well shot. Steve Miner did a good job with it. There's some cool scenes in there. It's not perfect, but it's a nice little slasher film. The ones that came after this were definitely better. I think Steve Miner did a better job with the third one, although the 3D holds that one back. Absolutely. But that's not Steve Miner's fault. He just has to do what the technology dictates. I mean, they couldn't move the camera. There's a lot of locked off shots if you remember 3D in the 80s. They can't really move the camera that much, not like they can now with the 3D cameras, but Part 2 is a decent little slasher film. I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think the original is a little better than this one. I think 3 is better than this one now, and I think 4 is the best one. So that's where we're going for the next one. But yeah, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10 for Friday the 13th, Part 2. And we'll be back. I have 3 coming up, and then Part 4, and then we're done. And I think I'm going to do an all-around listing of the Friday the 13th films. But yeah, that's it for Part 2. I will be back soon, and have a great day. Thanks.